A wrong turn here doesn't mean a fender bender. It means a truck, a driver, and thousands of pounds of freight disappearing over the edge of a mountain. Somewhere right now, a driver is easing a fully loaded rig through fog so thick he can't see his own hood, trusting nothing but instinct and the white line under his tires. Somewhere else, a road has already collapsed. Rock, mud, and ice have buried the only route through, and the trucks behind it are still lined up, waiting, because the freight still has to move. These are not ordinary highways. There are no shoulders to pull onto, no guardrails that would actually stop a 40-ton truck, no cell signal to call for help if something goes wrong. And yet, every single day, truckers still drive them. Because somewhere at the other end of these roads, there are people who need fuel, food, medicine, and supplies. And someone has to be the one to bring it. Today we're counting down 10 of the most dangerous trucking roads on the planet. Roads where vehicles have been lost to cliffs, floods, landslides, or ice. Roads that close because of the weather itself. Roads where one mistake doesn't just cost a job, it costs everything. These are 10 of the most dangerous trucking roads in the world, ranked from dangerous to almost unbelievable. Trollstigen, the Troll's Ladder, cuts through the mountains of western Norway in 11 hairpin turns, stacked almost directly on top of each other. The grades are brutal, some approaching a 10% incline, and the turns are so tight that larger trucks have to inch through them in multiple point turns, while traffic backs up behind them. Guardrails here are often just low stone walls, barely enough to stop a passenger car, let alone a loaded semi. A waterfall crashes directly across part of the route, meaning drivers pass through spray and slick pavement in the same stretch where they need the most control. In winter, the road closes completely, buried under snow that makes the pass impassable for months. Despite the danger, trucks still use this route to move construction materials and supplies to communities on the other side of the mountain, where the alternative is hours added to every trip. But without drivers willing to take on Trollstigen, entire valley communities would lose one of their few direct supply lines. And this is only the beginning, because as steep and twisted as this road is, the roads ahead get worse. The Atlantic Road looks almost peaceful in photographs, a ribbon of asphalt hopping between small islands, bridges arching over the sea, but that calm can disappear in minutes. In storm season, waves have been reported crashing directly over the bridges, hitting vehicles broadside, with enough force to push a truck sideways in its lane. Drivers describe losing visibility entirely as spray and rain hit the windshield at the same moment. Gusting coastal winds hit the trailer. High-sided trucks are especially vulnerable. A sudden crosswind on an exposed bridge can shift a loaded trailer before a driver has time to react. The road has been closed multiple times during extreme weather warnings. Still, the road remains a critical freight link connecting fishing communities and coastal towns that would otherwise face long, indirect detours for basic supplies. Without truckers willing to cross in rough conditions, isolated coastal towns would lose fast access to fuel and goods. But leaving the ocean behind, the next road trades water for altitude and fog thick enough to erase the world. Carved directly into marble cliffs, the roads through Taroko Gorge in Taiwan run through tunnels barely wide enough for a single truck, with sheer drops just past the tunnel mouths. This is a region known for landslides and rockfall, especially during typhoon season, when heavy rain has been reported to trigger slides that block the route with little warning. Sections of road have been damaged or washed out entirely after major storms. Some stretches offer no real shoulder, just a rock wall on one side and a drop to the river gorge on the other. Drivers describe the tunnels as disorienting, with sudden darkness followed by blinding light at each exit. Even so, these roads remain the only way to move construction materials and supplies to communities living deep inside the gorge. Without this route, remote mountain villages would be cut off from nearly everything trucked in from the coast. And already, we're only at number 8. From here, the roads start testing more than just driving skill. They start testing whether a truck can survive the environment at all. In the Australian outback, road trains, trucks pulling multiple trailers, sometimes stretching over 50 meters, cross some of the most isolated freight routes on Earth. Temperatures on these routes can climb well past 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and that heat has been linked to tire blowouts, engine overheating, and mechanical failures in the middle of nowhere, sometimes hundreds of miles from the nearest town. Isolation is the real danger here. Breakdowns can leave drivers stranded for hours with no cell service, and wildlife, including kangaroos and cattle, wandering onto the road at dusk has been linked to serious collisions, especially with a road train's enormous stopping distance. Despite the risk, these massive trucks are the backbone of outback logistics, hauling livestock, fuel, and supplies to stations and towns that have no other way to get them. Without road trains willing to cross the outback, entire communities and cattle stations would be functionally isolated. Before we go any further, understand this. Everything you've seen so far was just the warm-up. The next roads on this list are where the danger stops feeling like bad weather and starts feeling like the road itself is working against the truck. If real trucking danger, the kind most people will never actually see, is exactly the content you come here for, hit like right now, because that tells us to keep making more of it. Subscribe to Trucker Reality if you haven't already, and turn on the notification bell, because once we hit number 1, you're not going to want to have missed how this list ends. The James Bay Road in northern Quebec stretches for over 400 miles through some of the most remote terrain in North America, much of it with no gas stations, no cell coverage, and no other traffic for hours at a time. Whiteout conditions can develop fast here, cutting visibility to almost nothing in minutes. Black ice has been reported as a major hazard on the long straightaways, where a truck can be traveling at highway speed with almost no warning before losing traction entirely. Signs along the route warn drivers there are no services for extreme distances, meaning a breakdown here isn't an inconvenience. It's a survival situation in temperatures that can plunge far below zero. Still, this road is the primary supply line for remote communities and hydroelectric projects across the region, carrying fuel, food, and equipment that has no other way in. Without the James Bay Road, entire northern communities would depend entirely on air transport for basic supplies. The Dalton Highway runs over 400 miles from Fairbanks to the Arctic Ocean, much of it gravel, much of it completely exposed to Arctic weather with almost no services along the way. Sections of the highway include steep, ice-covered grades that have been the site of reported jackknifes and rollovers, especially during whiteout conditions, or sudden temperature swings that turn packed snow into black ice without warning. Narrow bridges, sheer drop-offs, and temperatures that can drop near -40 and, in extreme conditions, even lower, all combine here. And at that cold, mechanical failure isn't just an inconvenience. It can become a life-threatening emergency in minutes. Despite all of this, the Dalton Highway remains the only road link to Alaska's North Slope oil fields, meaning fuel, equipment, and supplies for the entire operation move by truck, through weather most drivers will never experience anywhere else. Without truckers willing to run the Dalton, the oil fields at the top of the continent would have no way to receive equipment or supplies over land. And from here, the roads stop feeling dangerous and start feeling almost impossible. The Sichuan-Tibet Highway crosses some of the highest and most unstable terrain on Earth, climbing over a dozen mountain passes, some above 16,000 feet, before dropping into deep river canyons on the other side. This route has been associated with frequent landslides, rockfall, and road collapses, especially during the summer monsoon season, when entire sections of roadway have been reported washing out or disappearing into the canyon below. At extreme altitude, engines can lose power, brakes can behave unpredictably on the descents, and drivers themselves can experience altitude sickness, all while navigating some of the narrowest, most exposed roads in the world. Even with all of this working against them, trucks remain one of the only ways to move goods, fuel, and supplies to communities across the Tibetan Plateau. Without this highway, some of the most isolated communities in Asia would lose their only real link to the outside world. Zojila Pass connects Kashmir to Ladakh through the Himalayas, a route so dangerous and so weather-dependent, that it's completely closed for nearly half the year. The road is narrow, often unpaved, and cut directly into the mountainside, with drop-offs that in some places exceed 1,000 feet, and almost no barriers to stop a vehicle that slides too close to the edge. Sudden snowstorms and avalanches have been reported closing the pass with little to no warning, sometimes trapping convoys of trucks for hours or days until the route can be cleared. Fog and low cloud cover routinely reduce visibility to almost nothing on the highest stretches. Despite the danger, this pass is a critical route for military convoys and civilian supply trucks, carrying fuel and essential goods to Ladakh before the winter closure cuts the region off entirely. Without trucks crossing Zojila before the snow comes, an entire region would be sealed off from the rest of the country for months. This is a road where even experienced truckers hesitate before the first hairpin, and it's still only third on this list. The Karakoram Highway is the highest paved international road in the world, climbing to over 15,000 feet as it crosses the border between Pakistan and China through some of the tallest mountains on the planet. This route has been associated with frequent landslides, rock slides, and flash flooding, and entire sections have been reported buried or washed away during monsoon season, sometimes for days at a time, stranding trucks on both sides. Add extreme altitude, unpredictable weather, and roads that in places are barely wide enough for a single truck, and you have a route where a moment of distraction can be the difference between arriving and disappearing. And yet, this highway remains one of the most important trade routes in Asia, carrying goods between Pakistan and China, across terrain almost nothing else can cross. Without the Karakoram Highway, an entire international trade corridor through the Himalayas simply would not exist. One road remains, and it has a reputation that has earned it a nickname truckers around the world already know. North Yungas Road, known around the world simply as Death Road, and the name did not come from nowhere. For most of its length, this road is barely wide enough for a single vehicle. No guardrails, no shoulder, just a crumbling dirt edge, and a drop that in places exceeds 2,000 feet straight down into the jungle canyon below. Fog rolls in with almost no warning, swallowing the road entirely within seconds. Heavy rain turns the dirt surface into slick mud, and waterfalls cross directly over sections of the route, meaning drivers pass through falling water on a road with nowhere to slide but off the edge. This road has been associated with more vehicle accidents than almost any other route on Earth, and small memorial markers line long stretches of it. Quiet, constant reminders of just how unforgiving one wrong movement here can be. For decades, it was reported as one of the deadliest roads in the world before a modern bypass was built to divert most traffic away from it. Some local traffic and service vehicles still use sections of the route, while nearby communities still depend on difficult mountain roads for supplies that have no easier way in. As dangerous as it is, this road still matters, because people depend on what trucks bring through roads like it. On this road, the truck is not just fighting traffic, it is fighting the mountain, the weather, and the road itself. 10 roads, 10 different corners of the world, but the danger on every single one of them comes down to the same brutal combination: altitude, weather, narrow lanes, isolation, cliff edges, landslides, ice, and mud, all working against a truck that still has somewhere it needs to be. These roads don't stay dangerous because people are careless. They stay dangerous because somewhere on the other end of them, people are waiting for what's in that trailer, and someone has to be willing to drive it there. So tell us, which of these roads would you refuse to drive? Which one do you think should have been number one? And if you're a trucker watching this, what's the most dangerous road you've ever driven? Drop it in the comments before you go. Then hit like on this video, subscribe to Trucker Reality if you're not already part of this, and turn on the notification bell, because the next road we cover might end up rewriting this entire list.